Hello students, we are going to start with the 7th chapter now, Hard Life at Earlshall Park. So let's see what Black Beauty says in this chapter. He says that next morning, Joey, who is a stable boy or caretaker, he took the pony named Merrylegs to the vicarage. Vicarage means the house where a church priest or vicar lives. Merrylegs was the first to come out of the stable, the place where horses are kept. Merrylegs made a sound need to say goodbye or show emotion as he stood in the open space outside the stable that is called yard. So after that, John, Ginger, and Black Beauty, they went on a journey. They traveled through the countryside. Countryside means rural area, a big estate or mansion. Mansion means where rich people live. So Black Beauty and other horse Ginger were taken to a new home where someone with the name starting Earl of W lived. This new place was grand, having a beautiful and large house with excellent stabling facilities, a good place for keeping horses. The coachman there, Mr. York, was a middle aged man known for having a firm and confident voice, suggesting he was strict and professional. The horses were taken to a clean, spacious, and well ventilated stable where they were placed next to each other in stalls. After arriving, they were cleaned and fed. Later, both John, their previous caretaker, and Mr. York, the new coachman, came in to check on them and see how they were doing. Mr. York commented that he found nothing wrong with the horses. They seemed perfect to him. John agreed and added that they were among the best pairs of horses in the whole country. John also proudly mentioned that the cruel check rein, a strap that forces horses to keep their heads unnaturally high, had never been used on them, which showed that they had been treated kindly and trained with compassion. Later in the day, the horses were harnessed. They were put into the gear used for pulling carriages and brought to the front of the house for display. The next day, Lord W, the master of the house, and a lady came to inspect them. The lady was dignified and proud in appearance, but she didn't look happy. She got directly into the carriage without any sign of being pleased with the horses. Black Beauty had a check rein put on, which prevented him from lowering his head. He was not used to wearing one and couldn't raise his head more than what he was comfortable with. This made him anxious and worried, especially about Ginger. But Ginger, although she had a difficult past, seemed quiet and calm at the moment, used to such treatment and appearing content. The next day, the same lady told Mr. York that the horses' heads needed to be held higher. In response, Mr. York came to the horses and adjusted the reins, making them shorter. This forced the horses to pull with their heads held high, which made Black Beauty feel great discomfort. The new position caused strain and pain in his neck, back, and legs, and it also drained his energy and spirit. When they returned from the ride, Ginger expressed her pain and frustration, saying she should not bear it and would not tolerate such treatment. As days went by, the horses' bearing reins were tightened more and more. This made Black Beauty extremely uncomfortable, and he began to dreadful, frightened being harnessed each day. He began to feel nervous and anxious just thinking about it. Then, for a few days, the reins were not shortened any further, which brought him some relief. During that time, he tried his best to do his duty as a good carriage horse, in spite of the discomfort he already felt. But one day, the lady of the house came again and demanded that Mr. York tighten the reins even more. This new level of tightness became unbearable, intolerable for the horses. Ginger, who had always been spirited and strong willed, could not take it anymore. She reared up, means she stood on her hind legs in protest, and struck Mr. York, showing how painful and unfair this treatment was. The groom, another stable worker, and Mr. York both tried to control Ginger, but she was very strong and firstly resisted their efforts. She was truly a match for them in strength and spirit. Finally, the groom managed to separate Black Beauty from Ginger and the carriage. He led Black Beauty back to his stall, which is referred to here as his box. Black Beauty was left feeling furious. His head was still painfully stretched upward towards the turret. Turret is a metal rings on the harness saddle, and he had no strength left to lower it. The tension from the reins kept his head high, causing both physical pain and emotional frustration. He felt utterly miserable, and he was so angry and hurt that he felt like kicking the first person who came close to him. Mr. York, the coachman, did not adjust the tight reins on the horses, even though he noticed how uncomfortable they were. However, he had no choice in the matter. He was bound to follow the instructions of his master, meaning of Lord W. This shows that even if York personally disagreed with using tight reins, he did not have the authority to go against the lady's or master's orders. After the incident where Ginger had violently resisted, she was never harnessed to the carriage again. She was no longer used for such painful duty. Instead, Lord W.'s younger son expressed interest in taking Ginger for himself. He believed Ginger would be a fine horse for hunting because she was strong and spirited, and he felt confident that she would make a good hunter despite her earlier behavior. Although Black Beauty still disliked the tight reins, he was willing to continue working in the carriage. But now he was paired with a new horse named Max, who was used to the tight rein. Max had experience enduring that kind of discomfort. So Black Beauty became curious and asked him how he managed to tolerate it. Max answered honestly, saying that he bore the pain only because he had no choice. It wasn't something he wanted, but something he had to endure, to tolerate. However, Max added something important and said he admitted that the titrine was damaging his health. He believed it was shortening his life, and he warned Black Beauty that if he had to keep working under the same condition, it would shorten his life too. Max told Black Beauty that in London people liked their horses to carry their heads high and step with a high action. because it looked stylish and elegant. However, he explained that this was actually very harmful to the horses, even though it made them look impressive. In spite of being bad for the horse's health, it was considered good for trade. In other words, it helped attract buyers or clients. Max shared something he had personally overheard. Someone openly admitted that horses suffer and even get diseased from being forced to keep their heads high. But the trade benefits made people ignore the harm. Max said to Black Beauty, "That is what he said in my hearing. And you can judge for yourself." Meaning, Black Beauty could understand how unfair it was. Then Black Beauty describes his own experience. For 4 long months, he suffered greatly from being forced to carry his head in this painful way. It was extremely uncomfortable and exhausting. He admits that if this harsh treatment had gone on any longer, it would have affected either his health or his temper. He would have either fallen sick or become so frustrated that he would have lost his patience completely. Lady Harriet, who lived in the hall, was very ill and weak, referred to as a great invalid, which means she was not healthy enough to go out or ride in the carriage. So she stayed indoors. Her relative, Lady Annie, however, loved riding on horseback, especially with her brother or cousins. She was an excellent horse rider, very skilled, and had a deep understanding of horses. She chose Black Beauty to be her horse and gave him the name Black Coster. Then we learn about Lizzie, a bright bay mare, a reddish brown horse, who was very popular and loved by the gentlemen. One of those gentlemen, Blantyre, regularly rode Lizzie, but Lady Annie wanted to ride Lizzie herself because Lizzie looked and behaved in a more ladylike manner. This made Blantyre quite worried, as he thought Lizzie was too nervous and high strung for a lady to manage safely. In spite of his warnings, Lady Anne insisted on riding Lizzie. One day, Lady Anne and Blantyre had to deliver a note to the doctor, so they rode together to the village. When they reached the spot, Blantyre got off the horse. Dismounted means got off the horse and asked Black Beauty to deliver the message while he stayed behind. But suddenly, a group of wild and uncontrollable horses rushed across the road. These horses were being led by a boy, and they were very noisy and reckless. One of the horses fell slightly into Lizzie. This frightened Lizzie so badly that she ran away at full speed. Black Beauty became very alarmed and neighed loudly, calling for help. After some time, Blantyre returned, and both he and Black Beauty rushed to follow Lady Anne and Lizzie. Eventually, they found them both Lady Anne and Lizzie were lying on the ground. Blantyre was crying for help, clearly distressed. They returned to help. It turned out that although Lady Anne was not seriously injured, she was unconscious. Now students, we will do the exercise given at the end. So note down the questions. Question and answer both are written here. So thank you. Bye for now.